If you've had any exposure to the Muslim side of social media, you've probably witnessed the rise and fall of one of your favorite Muslim personalities. Many of us feel disappointed, and a lot of us have so many questions. In this video, we'll be looking into the dilemma of being a Muslim woman online, how it started, the heydays, and the parasocial relationships we made along the way. I'm going to add some context a little bit before we get into it. So please bear with me, it will all make sense, trust me. So we're going to start our story in the 2010s with blogs. Muslim girls and women began sharing their lives through their personal websites. They talked about navigating their relationship with modesty, with the hijab, and motivating Muslim women to be more comfortable in their Muslim identity. The world of hijabi and modest fashion was born. Muslim girls felt heard, they felt understood, and coming off the back of 9/11 and the rise of Islamophobia, there wasn't a better, more fitting time to have such warm, comforting Muslim voices from around the world. Let's talk about third culture kids as well, and the third culture kid experience, because I feel like this really does impact how we talk about this subject. In the 50s, Ruth Usim talked about the term third culture kids. It essentially means a blend of influences resulting in a cultural identity that doesn't fit neatly into one. Many of us had our parents move to the West because of war in our home countries, or even for better economic futures for their families. The kids of those parents had to navigate their identity in countries that at the time were amping up anti-Islam rhetoric. And for young girls and women who wore the hijab, they were disproportionately more vulnerable to harassment because of their obvious show of faith. Here are some stats. In France, as of 2023, 81.5% of victims of Islamophobia were women. And in the US, 79% of women said that they'd experienced Islamophobia, whilst 58% of men said that they'd experienced Islamophobia. So coming off the back of such harassment, hate, the feeling of being the other, Muslim women used their creativity to build a warm community for themselves online. Viewers would engage in the comments, we'd have good sisterly bonds. Our favourite channels became an escape from the hatred, and sometimes even just a quiet nod saying you're not alone. There were vlogs during Ramadan which would motivate us to keep going, giving those who didn't have family to break fast with a sense of belonging. Vlogmadan was an exciting time of the month, focusing on faith, forgiveness, and family. And there were so many fun challenges too, from the ghost pepper challenges to the marriage tags and how we met tags to pranks. We shared laughs, but we were also there for their biggest milestones, from the weddings, the births, the moves, business ventures, to even the deep chats, the struggles, the hard times. We were there for it all. And whilst many of us would simply watch, maybe drop a like, there were people who were actually commenting, engaging, they would go to the meetups, they were buying the merch. And as time went on, their following rose too. Muslim female bloggers went on big magazines like British Vogue, were speaking on broadcast channels about their relationship with the hijab and modest fashion. We were finally in the spaces that had previously ignored us.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't.
With the high highs come the low lows. Many of us follow these channels because of their relatability. And naturally, as time went on, we had expectations for these personalities to say certain things, to uphold certain values, and we grew accustomed to who they were, naturally based on what they said. And often our support for these individuals was based specifically on their Muslim identity, and also because we related to them and we saw ourselves in them, like I said before. So when scandals began, divorces, taking off the hijab, many felt disconnected from their favourite faces online. Many viewers felt disappointed. They had subscribed to these people because they were struggling with the hijab maybe, and they were still wearing it despite that struggle. Or for their Muslim family content that helped them to see a beautiful example of a Muslim family. One Redditor wrote, "Now seeing that she took it off, it's honestly devastating." They go on to say she inspired so many people. Before we talk about the implications of these personal choices broadly and the backlash that came after, let's just touch on a few things because, let's be honest, we do need to have a chat about these things. One thing being parasocial relationships, and the second being religious entitlement and overzealousness, dare I say. The term parasocial relationship was coined in the 50s as well, and it was as visual media was increasing, mainly television, to have a one-sided emotional connection to a public personality that we don't know personally and they don't know us at all. So this could be fictional characters, celebrities, politicians, and in our case, social media personalities. So there's also this idea of the illusion of intimacy, and it came from Donald Horton and Richard Voll. And they essentially said that you build a sense of intimacy with someone when they're talking directly to you on the camera, and it makes the viewer feel like we're being acknowledged, that we feel like we're talking to a friend on a couch, literally on a couch, and we're just listening to their stories. Whilst we had TV shows that would give us access to someone's life, there would hardly be a way of directly interacting with that person without really going out of your way, going to meetups, going to events, or writing a letter maybe that would probably go without a response. With the advent of social media, content creators are able to reply to comments, sometimes in real time, and really build a close relationship between viewer and personality. Now, whilst these personalities did make a commitment to the viewer, they did make a commitment to share their interests in certain topics and subject matters, it is important to remember that each corner of the internet that we hit follow or subscribe to, it doesn't necessarily mean that the owner of that channel must adhere to who we expect them to be. A very hard reality, because we have grown to trust these people. However, as with everyone, people do change. Social media influencers are no different, but there may be times where our favourite personalities want to switch their interests. But how do we navigate those feelings? True, the individual can make up their own mind, but following their journey and rooting for them through the struggles, through the trenches, what is our response when they do something that we find unfavourable or out of character for them? What are healthy responses and what are the unhealthy responses? Let's just blitz through some unhealthy responses, just get it out the way. So the swearing, the demeaning, the harassing these individuals, the slandering of them, totally not okay. We know these responses are online and are very common online. Some of us may have even left such hateful comments. But in essence, what does it mean? There's so many more things that I want to say. There are so many more things that I would want to say about this topic, but I'm sorting out my battery issue with my camera, so it's going to be a bit short. But please leave a comment if you want to talk about this deeper, because I feel like we could talk about this forever. The relationship between women, Muslim women online, and how the relationship between Muslim women and the world online. Yes, it means that we are hurt by these people's decisions, but perhaps it also could be a way for us to want to control another person. Can we really change a person's perspective with hate, with harassment? Further, if such a change does happen, is it a genuine change because they've realised that this is not something that they want to do? Or is it change under duress? It may not be 100% one or the other. They may want to backtrack and say, oh, actually, I do want to wear the hijab or something like that, but also want to placate to the masses in a way. But it wouldn't be fair to put the blame all on the viewer. Many of us won't send a hurtful message or spread gossip, but we are shocked. Naturally, someone who we followed under certain pretenses going full 180 in the opposite direction will be shocking, to say the least, let alone someone who we connected with on a faith basis, on a spiritual level, going 180 degrees on something we deeply care about, like the hijab. But I would say I can't say what a stellar response would be from an influencer, and I can't speak to anyone's struggles truly, but I feel like a simple acknowledgement of the implications of one's actions, at the very least, especially when there's been a strong relationship established between the viewer and the poster, it would be a little more understanding to have a comment on how, whilst this isn't a choice that they would recommend for everyone, it's a personal choice nonetheless. Yes, and maybe apologising for the hurt caused. Yes, such a response would do well to quell some of the frustrations of the public. However, again, these individuals have free rein to do as they will. Hoping for an explanation does seem human. To want to know how such a decision came about is human. But we must acknowledge that whilst an address to the situation is it's nice and it's welcoming, they simply don't have to. And if that causes further hurt, then I guess perhaps they're not the people that we subscribe to. And maybe we wouldn't want to keep up with those people.
Why would a man be there? Why would a man be there? No, it's actually pissing me off. Oh my God, it pisses me off.
Now let's talk briefly about religious entitlement. We have to talk about that when it comes to women wearing the hijab online. Joining good, forbidding evil, they're promoting sin, promoting evil, they have no shame. These are all things that people say to justify their religious hate when it comes to people taking off their hijab or things like that. There are many things that do need to be unpacked. Disclaimer for this section, because unlike many online, I don't want to seem like I know everything. In fact, please assume that I don't know everything. And perhaps this disclaimer is needed on a lot of videos. I'm not going to throw around yarnis or try to portray myself as anything but just a human being Muslim. Now that's being said, let's just jump right into it. We have to talk about Islam. The taking off the hijab is obviously an Islamic issue and things like that. So I do have to bring it into this, of course. Islam is a very community-based faith. We go to Jumu'ah, we do Tarawih together, we are encouraged to have friends and keep ties of kinship and encourage each other in good. Yes, it is important to enjoin in good and forbid evil. But have we ever stopped to think about how we do the forbidding part of that? How to disagree with one another with decorum, how to give advice to a fellow Muslim who's going through a hard time. I don't think we do. I must say truthfully that perhaps the people who need to hear this are probably not even watching this video. They're probably off doing their own stuff, talking about another person. But anyways, I feel like it must be said. We have to hold ourselves to a higher degree of compassion, of kindness, of Islamicness than we want to expect of other people, even other Muslims. Two things can be true at the same time. We can be disappointed, yes. We can be hurt that our favorite personalities have made a decision that we think is not right. But to bring in parts of Islam whilst disregarding the elegance of the faith, the nobility, the decorum, the dignity of Islam, it just makes us look very silly. And as a result, again, going back to this hatred-filled anti-Islam rhetoric, post 9/11 hateful world when it comes to Muslims, we're just targeting the people that need our mercy the most, fellow brothers and sisters. We seem overzealous and hurtful to the very people who need our mercy. This may seem fairly la-di-da, it's great, we should be kumbaya, happy together. But again, even the haters have free reign on the internet, unfortunately. And whilst there are community guidelines, I feel like the way they go about their hate is shrouded in Islamic language, when the belly of it is really just control and hatred. And not everyone, I must say. Some people give their advice very nicely, and some people are rightfully upset and they express that in a very mature way. But again, I would be silly to not address the fact that a lot of people are just going off in the craziest way about this, and without any hishad, without any decorum, without even giving excuses for their brothers and sisters, I'm not gonna lie. So where do we go from here? I want to hand this over to you. Given the road that we've gone down together over the however minutes I've been talking, I wonder, where have we gone wrong? And what is to come of the future of Muslim women online? There's so much more to be said about this again, as I said. The idea of being influenced by other people and having them shape your views on the hijab or Muslim families and things like that. And the very idea that we should be global ambassadors for Islam when we're just average human beings. And I think maybe having a camera and a mic gives us more access to the world and gives us more expectations than we've even really realised. I've heard a lot about people saying that this has affected their relationship with the hijab. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this topic and you feel like at least it's been addressed in hopefully a more realistic way than it is online. It's very easy to get caught up in the hate storms of things and get carried away in it. And I feel like it takes a minute to just step back and think, actually, this isn't right. The genocide on Gaza is still going on. The occupation of Palestine hasn't stopped a minute since 1945. Free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free America, quite frankly. Props. And I'll see you guys in the next one, I guess.